You guys teach me about new things every time I upload. Like, the hell was Yu-Gi-Oh! R? The actual book was really expensive and hard to find. After a few comments telling me to check out Yu-Gi-Oh! R, I decided to do some research since I've never heard of it before. And Yu-Gi-Oh! R is a spin-off manga-only arc that took place immediately after the Battle City tournament. This manga was actually written by Akira Itō instead of Kazuki Takahashi, and it would be published in Shueisha's Viz magazine from April 2004 to December 2007. And it follows the apprentice of Pegasus, who wants revenge on Yugi after defeating him in the Duelist Kingdom tournament. This was basically a manga-only filler arc, so not many people have heard of it, including myself. But I really like the premise of it, so I'm really excited to check it out, so let's just jump right into it.
You did it, Yugi! You saved your grandfather's soul! And you won the big tournament!
Wow, they weren't kidding. This starts up immediately after Battle City ends, with Yugi defeating Merrick while being watched over this guy who promises he will get revenge on Yugi for Master Pegasus. He hacks into Kaiba Corp's solid vision system and basically takes over for it as a part of Industrial Illusion's Asia division. While the gang are leaving class, Yugi hears a mysterious voice calling out to him, which is the mysterious man who uses Kaiba Corp's solid vision to basically appear in his classroom. He tells them his name is Yugioh Tenma, telling them that he's a part of Industrial Illusions, and Jonochi replying with, "I have never heard of that before in my entire life." Honda proceeds to remind Jonochi, "You idiot! Industrial Illusion? Pegasus's company? The one who created your favorite game, Duel Monsters? The game that this manga is based off of? Did you forget that you came second in the Duelist Kingdom tournament? The tournament that Pegasus held? The one who was in charge of Industrial..." It's just like a funny exposition dump for people who like don't remember what happened before or like are just starting here instead of the original manga. He tells Yugi, "By the way, I want to duel you. Meet me on the roof. You're not allowed to say no." He then proceeds to just shoddy his way up to the roof facing through the ceiling. Can you imagine if Yugi was just like, "F that, I got math homework," and then he just went home and the arc just ended there? I like that Yugioh tells Yugi that his punishment would just basically be losing to Yugioh, not like some divine punishment or some shadow game where you get like all your fingernails ripped off for every monster you lose or something like that. It's basically just bragging rights. Yugi, hard at the thought of another threat coming to challenge him and threaten his friends and family, of course he goes up to the roof and accepts Yugioh's challenge. It just immediately cuts to Yugi summoning Slifer. It shows none of the duel beforehand. Yugioh then counters by summoning his god, the Wicked Avatar. This thing, I've seen this card so many times before, and apparently it's a god card. It's literally just a black sphere. Like, look at the 3 god cards and then look at this thing. Yeah, this is a god card, alright. And don't even give me no like, "Oh, but the Winged Dragon of Raw Sphere mode is exactly the same." Yeah, that's 1 mode out of 3. I mean, in the manga it's pretty cool because it transforms into the most powerful monster on the field, but in the actual TCG it's just ominous black orb.
Hey, can you just watch this ominous floating orb just while I record this video? I'll be right back, thank you.
Yugi tries to use Slifer's effect on it, but it doesn't work because there's apparently like a tier system to the god cards, and Wicked Avatar is apparently like SS tier. Yugioh then attacks Slifer with the Wicked Avatar and wipes it out pretty easily. Yugioh then reveals that he's the one that created the Wicked Avatar card on behalf of Pegasus, with Pegasus being too scared to create the Wicked Avatar after seeing how powerful the other god cards were, with it being so powerful that no one in the series ever mentioned it before or after this arc. I know filler arc can never cross with the canon, but it's always funny when filler arcs introduce this new powerful being or something that can like end the universe with a single snap, and we never hear of it outside of the filler arc. And then we cut to a flashback of Yugioh talking with Pegasus. So in this arc, is Yugioh like his student or like his son? Or like a brother or something? Because Pegasus calls Yugioh his brother, unless that's just like a term of endearment, but I just can't imagine Pegasus going like, "Oh Yugioh, what's up my brother?" It's terrible. "Oh Yugioh, what's up my brother?" After Yugioh came across the aftermath of what would happen to Pegasus in the manga when he died, Yugioh asks Croquette who did this to Pegasus, and Croquette responds by saying Yugi did it, even though it was Bakura that did it. Yaeko then has like a mental breakdown, calling Pegasus like his mentor, his family, his master, all of that. So they are related. Unless they were so close that they were just basically family. But if they were so close or they were related or whatever, how did he not get brought up once outside of this arc? I already know the answer to that, but this is the problem you run into when you have filler characters related to canon characters. I do like Yaeko's character design though, and how it kind of mirrors Pegasus with his one eye being weird and all that. Yaeko then steals Anzu and tells them that she's going to be sacrificed for his Project Raw, while also taking over Kaiba Corp and him telling them that if they want to see her again, they gotta meet him in the main office. They get to Kaiba Corp and they are greeted by the first opponent, Deschutes Liu, a card professor. I don't remember seeing that on the list of majors. Card professors are basically just mercenaries for hire. 13 of them, including Deschutes, are who Yugi has to get through to get to Yaeko. He tosses Yugi the card with Anzu's soul in it. I guess anyone in this universe just has the power to put someone's soul into a playing card, and they get to dueling. There's nothing special about this duel. It's pretty standard, but that's not a bad thing. Again, just like every video I make, I'm not going to be focusing on the play-by-play for the duels. I'm more focused about the story. These videos are never meant to be a replacement for watching or reading the actual material itself. I just like making jokes. Terrible ones, but I like making jokes. Deschutes keeps taking control of Yugi's monster until Yugi activates Owner's Seal, and then proceeds to finish off Deschutes with Dark Magician. Jumping to Yaeko, talking to one of his minions who gets a little bit too close to his Wicked Avatar card. Asking Yaeko why he's doing all this, and Yaeko replies that the duelist inside of him feels it, as well as Project Raw not being able to continue without these duels. Showing the duelist inside of him to be Bandit Keith, who, in case if you don't know, also dies in Duelist Kingdom. Deschutes gives Yugi a key card so he can go into the next block of Kaiba Corp, and Yugi just tells him, "You're pretty weird, man. Hey, thanks for helping me out, you fucking freak." Deschutes just kind of heads back home afterwards, and I kind of like that. Like, again, there's no like divine punishment or anything like that. He just lost the duel and he's like, "Oh, I hope I can make it back home for Monday Night Raw tonight." In the next room, they run into Tillamook. Like the cheese? She challenges Yugi to this cemetery field using Kaiba Corp's solid vision system. And if you're wondering why Kaiba doesn't know that Yaeko is basically throwing a party inside of his headquarters, it's because Kaiba was already in America working on the World Kaiba Land project. And Yaeko hacked the system before they could get into any contact with him. Anyways, Ice Cream challenges Yugi to a duel. If she wins, she gets the Anzu card that Deschutes gives to him. And if she loses, then Yugi gets the key card to the next block. She tells Yugi about the cash prize that Yaeko put on his head for defeating him, which was $100,000. But I don't see a point in the cash prize if you're already hiring them to duel him for you. Is it like a bonus? There's a funny moment where Jonochi is trying to calculate how much $100,000 is in yen, and then he asks Block of Cheese how much he's worth, and she says $10. Now get away from me. I'm surprised she didn't just spit on him. I wouldn't have minded, to be honest. I think it would have been less offensive if he was just worth nothing at all. Unsalted Butter runs a vampire deck, so she keeps bringing her monsters back from the graveyard, but Yugi wins with Buster Blader, and he delivers a pretty cold line before finishing her off, saying her master now kneels to them as Buster Blader stands tall over her, which was pretty sick. After the duel, Jonochi asks to borrow her duel disc, and she actually lets him, which means you already know that he's going to be the next one to duel. He immediately falls into a trap, and Honda jumps in after him. They then run into Card Professor Klamath, who was down there, and he says he didn't even expect to run into anybody since he got like the bottom pick of the pile. So I don't know, I guess he's like the worst card professor or something. They duel and he's like a worse Haga, if that was even possible. He gets the upper hand with his bug deck, and Jonochi wins by using Roulette Spider. While that's happening, Yugi duels another card professor named Kirk Dixon. He tells Yugi to keep up with his warrior deck, which it's not a warrior deck, it's a machine deck. This was a pretty cool one since Yugi was able to split his big machine monster into its original machine monsters and then use Diffusion Wave Motion and the Dark Magician Girl combo to finish them all off. Little things like this panel remind me of why I like reading manga a lot. You get cool little drawings in there like Klamath and Kirk playing with their little toy robots in between each chapter. Jumping straight back to Jonochi, who runs into Pete Coppermine. He's actually my favorite one so far out of all the henchmen. He just seems like a chill dude. He talks about Kaiba Corp's solid vision system being so good that they never even noticed Anzu being kidnapped, which leads me into my next question. How did they actually capture her? Was it like the morning of school? Was it when she went to the bathroom? And did the solid vision system of her just go to all her classes for her? How did that whole plan go down? Pete and Jonochi then begin to duel. And I know it sounds like I'm going over this volume pretty fast, but that's genuinely how it's being being paced, this volume so far is just back to back to back to back duels. Like, there's hardly any lore or story or anything in between these duels. Pete runs a psychic deck and Jonochi wins by snatching a card with his grave robber and countering back to take the duel. Cutting back to Yugi, who runs into his next opponent. It's this grandma who's just like alone in this giant room. The door to the next block of Kaiba Corp is locked, so Yugi goes up to her and he's like, "Hey, have you seen anyone wearing a duel disc? One of these? Are you aware that you're here right now? Do I need to call someone for you?" She pops a duel disc out of her wheelchair and then that duel begins. She uses like a weird fairy tale deck. She has like leprechaun cards and like a forest card that the leprechaun disappears into, but she activates it like a trap card even though it's a field spell. Yugi wins with Archfiend of Guilford, and then after the duel he sees Yeiko sitting right above them. So then Yugi runs up to Yeiko and then Yeiko challenges him again, telling Yugi that if he wins, he can get a glimpse of how Anzu is doing. But if Yeiko wins, then he gets all of Yugi's god cards. Yeah, that's a fair trade. Not even one, just like all of them. Yeiko says he modified his deck so it's even better since the last time they dueled. I don't see a point in saying that when we didn't even see his deck in the last duel. We only saw Wicked Avatar. And also, like, he was about to win last duel, but I guess that's the point. Like, oh my god, I was about to win last duel and now my deck is even better. Yeiko brings out Summoner Monk, so every turn he can basically summon 2 monsters since Summoner Monk special summons a monster. Yugi manages to bring out Valkyria on the Magna Warrior and then destroy Summoner Monk. However, too little too late, as Yeiko already has everything he needs. He keeps teasing Wicked Avatar but actually brings out Wicked Dreadroot, and that's where volume 1 ends off. And it feels weird. Like, it feels rushed even though there's 4 volumes left. There was a lot of back-to-back duels and no story or anything like that in between, or no forwarding of the plot really. And Yeiko and Yugi are already dueling for the 2nd time. I know the first one didn't really count since it was just to introduce us to Wicked Avatar, but still. But it's only volume 1, so let's see how it goes from here. Side note, you guys have no idea how much easier this video is to make when I don't have to stand in front of a green screen and hold a microphone for like 2 hours straight.
Now we can help my sister. She's as blind as a goddamn bat.
I kind of regret asking for more Yeiko lore after this volume. We'll get there in a bit, but this volume starts off with Yeiko destroying Valkyrion since Dreadroot has an effect to have the attack and defense of all monsters that are on the field. Yugi is able to Monster Reborn Ra, but Yeiko negates the summon since Ra is a god and Dreadroot's ability won't affect god cards. Oh yeah, forgot to mention, Wicked Dreadroot is a god card too, apparently. There's a second one. All these like new god cards that never got mentioned before. I know that's like every filler arc ever. Like a new undiscovered powerful whatever that never got mentioned before and never gets mentioned again after the filler arc is over. But that doesn't make it like any less contrived or forced or anything like that. Whatever, I'm harping way too much on it. At least it's not as ridiculous as like an 8th undiscovered millennium item or something. That would be ridiculous. Croquette gives some lore on Yeiko, saying that Yeiko was the only duelist that Pegasus ever called perfect of all the duelists that Pegasus raised. Okay, so not related, but raised by Pegasus. Got it. Wait, of all the duelists Pegasus raised? How many were there? And why was this never mentioned that Pegasus just had like a freaking kindergarten class worth of kids that he was just raising? Was he running around just like scooping orphans up with a butterfly net? Yugi manages to bring out all of his knights and then fuse them into Arcana Knight Joker. Wicked Dreadroot's ability still cuts its attack in half, but when Dreadroot goes for the attack, Yugi activates Spellbinding Illusion to negate Dreadroot's effect and cut its attack down by 500. And then Yugi activates Weapon Regeneration to bring back Lightning Blade from the grave and equip it to Arcana, which then makes it stronger than Dreadroot and proceeds to slash it right in half. This is when Yeiko's like spirit splits. Croquette then stops Yugi from attacking again since Yeiko is in no condition to keep the duel going and Yugi basically wins by forfeit. This is when Yeiko pops up on the big screen. No, it's not a pre-recorded video, that is a live feed. And this is when Yeiko reveals that the person that Yugi was just dueling is Yeiko's twin brother, Gecko Tenma, which Yeiko was possessing to duel Yugi. He shows Yugi Anzu's like lifeless body since he won the duel, and he reveals what Project Raw is. It's Yako's plan to revive Pegasus through Anzu. And of course, Gekko is like the nice, not evil twin, and he apologizes to Yugi. Pretty much tells Yugi that after Pegasus died, Yako went insane. This is when Gekko tells Yugi like, oh, you know you can see Anzu like anytime you want. Just summon her on your duel disk and she'll appear like a little Navi. So like, I don't see the point in capturing her when she's still gonna be basically side by side to Yugi throughout this like whole freaking arc. Like obviously they still need to save like her actual body, but she's basically with Yugi throughout the remainder of these volumes. We see Mokuba and Kaiba heading full speed back to Domino City. Unfortunately not in the Blue Eyes Jet Dragon. So sorry guys, this manga is now a 0 out of 10. Yugi's gotten enough screen time, so we're going back to a Jonochi duel. Yugi and Jonochi's bounties are up to 200,000 and 200 respectively. Mendocino is this next duelist name. What the fuck are these names, man? He runs a Mantis deck, and Jonochi summons out Legendary Fisherman, which I actually thought was pretty cool. I'm pretty sure he never summoned it outside of that one duel against Merrick. Mendo uses a card to like keep spawning Mantis tokens, and another card that makes you have to pay 1,000 life points every time you summon a card. Jonochi brings out Jinzo to get rid of Mendo's trap cards. He keeps boosting his Mantis, and Jonochi busts out the same combo that he used to defeat Bandit Keith. Sword and Shield to swap the attack and defense of all the monsters on the field, and then he would use Time Machine to bring back his Jinzo with its original attack and defense and win the duel that way. Keep in mind, I'm not glossing over these duels because they were bad or anything like that. A lot of them were actually a really fun read, but like I said, not really focused on those. This is when Kaiba would finally pull up to Kaiba Corp, fighting off a white horned dragon that was summoned by the next card professor. Before we continue on with that, we get a flashback of Kaiba and Mokuba in Las Vegas hosting a tournament to promote Kaiba Land. But then Yako pops up and tells Kaiba like, hey, I'm taking control of like your whole company, bye. Kaiba says he's seen Yako before, which further proves my point that it makes no sense to have filler villains that everyone in the cast knows. Kaiba and Mokuba proceed to head back to Japan after Yako told them his whole plan for no reason. The next card professor, his name is Willamette, like the mall from Dead Rising. Hi there, nice to meet you. I'm a card professor. My name is Ledis Washarum. Anyways, there's a $100,000 hit on Kaiba. Willa tells Kaiba that if he doesn't duel him right now, Yako will like blow up his whole computer. Kaiba apparently does not keep a flash drive or a backup or like anything. Willa keeps calling him Little Lord of the Cards. And he even says like, oh, they don't call you Little Lord of the Cards for nothing. No one fucking calls him that. Kaiba summons out Blue Eyes White Dragon, and I'm just gonna read you verbatim what he says when he summons it. In the world of duel monsters, there exists one being which is nobler and greater than all others, the perfect ultimate life form. The monster is an entity from a higher dimension. The breath from its mouth is charged with pure magical power. Watch and learn. This is the supreme monster. I summon the Blue Eyes White Dragon. Just fuck already. Kaiba wins with Blue Eyes, and when Willa is about to hand him the key card, Mokuba pops up on the other side, able to hack through the door. Willa then asked Kaiba why he accepted the duel in the first place. You threatened to blow up like all of his computers if he didn't duel you. What are you talking about? Yako pops up and tells his entire plan to Kaiba, and Kaiba says, this isn't the Yako I know. Yako used to be quiet and shy. What happened to the Yako that I knew? They are gaslighting me into thinking that every character in the show just knew that Pegasus was just raising orphans on the side. Cutting back to Gekko, who tells Yugi that him and Yako are orphans and Pegasus adopted both of them. Oh my god, they literally confirmed that Pegasus was just running around catching orphans like it was Ape Escape. Gekko tells Yugi and Anzu the same thing that we already knew, that these god cards were too menacing for Pegasus, but Yako decided to make them anyways, and telling them why Anzu has to be the sacrifice for Project Raw because she fulfills these very specific requirements needed. Gekko then tells Yugi that Yako wants revenge on him since someone told Yako that Yugi was the one that killed Pegasus. Yeah, it was Croquette. We saw it earlier. Except it wasn't Croquette apparently. It was Bandit Keith. One tiny little problem with that. Bandit Keith is dead. He died before Pegasus did. Pegasus is the one who killed him. Gekko then asked Bandit Keith why he lied to Yako, saying that Yugi was the one that killed Pegasus. And then Bandit Keith is just like, oh, was he? Oh, my bad, dude. Sorry about that. Keith then introduces us to the next card professor who's just sitting right next to him. Ted Banias? Ted Banius. Gekko then offers to help Yugi out by being the one to duel this guy instead, and Yugi accepts because the Pharaoh is tired from dueling so much. I guess that's a thing now, even though Pharaoh dueled pretty much all night long in the Battle City tournament. And the duel begins, and the volume proceeds to end with Gekko going, "Oh yeah, I'm fucked." Yeah, I don't know what to say so far. This arc is honestly falling off the wagons, and we still have 3 volumes left. I don't know, man. Maybe in the midst of all this It's So Over, we can reach We Are So Back. I don't know. I'm hoping.
I'm not helping her. She will live the rest of her days in total darkness, wondering why her older brother couldn't save her from this torment.
The title of this volume is basically begging me to be disappointed in it. Yeiko hits him with the "call an ambulance, but not for me," dumping a bunch of equip cards into the graveyard with graceful charities and then bringing them all back to OTK Ted. Bandit Keith then starts to beat him up and Yugi just goes, "Can you just give us the key already?" Like as he's beating up Ted, Yugi doesn't even try to stop it or anything like that. He doesn't have a key card. Why would he? He just tells him like, "Oh, I'll just take you straight to him." Jonochi and Honda run into the next card professor, who is a girl, and she's like super shy and runs away from them. They catch up to her and they want to duel her, and she says that she didn't even want to be a card professor, but like all the others convinced her to. Oh, but when I chase women, then we have to get the police involved. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention the group of card professors. They call themselves the Card Professors Guild. That's the lamest name I've ever heard in my entire life. It makes me want to bully them. Her name's Reiko, and she asked Jonochi to go easy on her since she's only been playing Duel Monsters for a month. Am I supposed to take this group seriously or not? Like, you tell me you have this group of mercenary card professors who are like some of the best duelists in like the world or something, and then you have this one who says she's only been playing for like a month. I know that's the joke, but when it's at the expense of the group, the joke doesn't really land. It's more embarrassing for the group. You never saw a rare hunter or one of the 3 musketeers tell Yugi like, "Oh, I'm too scared to duel you. Can we not duel?" And of course, the joke is that she almost beats Jonochi even though she barely knows how to play. The only reason Jonochi won is because the whole duel he was basically going, "Oh my god, you play like a pussy. Can you stop being a little bitch and just attack me already?" Even Honda tells him afterwards like, "You only won because you talked yourself out of it." Anyway, she doesn't have a key card because that card block was basically just a dead end. All the card professors were basically just meant to stall Yugi while Yeiko works on Project Raw. They run into Mokuba, who's trying to take back the control room while Kaiba goes after Yeiko. And this is another thing I don't get. If the whole point is to stall Yugi so he doesn't get to Yeiko in time, what's the point of even bothering with the key cards? Like, just never give him a key card and you're good to go. Kaiba wouldn't even be here if you hadn't teleported to him and told him your whole entire plan in the first place. Whatever, you may say I'm looking way too deep into this, but I'm really not. These are things I literally just naturally thought of while reading it. Kaiba meets Yeiko at the top and just slaps him away with his briefcase. He sees Anzu hooked up to the machine and Yeiko proceeds to go even deeper into his Project Raw plan. He explains that Pegasus literally put a piece of his soul into each and every single Duel Monster card he made, and he's transferring the data from every single Duel Monster card into Anzu to revive Pegasus. Kaiba calls Yeiko a fucking lunatic for that logic, and Yeiko responds with, "Well, what about when you were dueling Yugi and you saw that vision, huh? Checkmate, atheist." Yeiko's saying that he successfully did this with Bandit Keith already, using Bandit Keith's cards to revive him. But he just said that Pegasus' soul was in every Duel Monsters card. Like every single Duel Monsters card? And did he just use Keith's own body as a vessel for the soul? Because if he did, why couldn't he just do it with Pegasus? Why does he need Anzu? Oh my god, I need a drink, dude. Has this ever happened to you? Well, thanks to the sponsor of this video, Aura, you'll have the proper security you deserve. Think about a time when a company you trusted announced a data breach involving your personal information. It happens a lot more than you think or even are aware of. The National Public Data Breach of 2024 affected 1.3 billion individuals. 2.9 billion records were lost, and personal information such as full names, social security numbers, and even addresses were leaked and sold onto the dark web. Hey! Keep it down in there! Well, now thanks to Aura, you can be protected from all that and more. Lord knows he could have used it. Thanks to Aura, your data is safeguarded using the same security standards as banks and the military. Plus, Aura will never sell your data to third parties. Aura will also help remove your personal information from data brokers and people search sites that sell your identity to scammers, identity thieves, and more. And they also have around-the-clock US fraud specialists available to help. Aura is great for protection, and it's something I personally use since I have also fallen victim to data breaches. But don't worry. I'll get them one day. All that and more is available on this one app at an affordable price. And if you go to aura.com/yugitoad or just by clicking the link in the description, you can try the first 2 weeks absolutely free. Aura also offers a free Are You Smarter Than a Scammer quiz to prove how savvy you are when it comes to keeping your information safe. Again, if you want to help the channel and especially help yourself, go to aura.com/yugitoad or click the top link in the description to try it free for 2 weeks. And thanks to Aura for sponsoring this video. Oh, it was about cybersecurity?
Yeah, it was about cybersecurity.
So I didn't need him. What do I do with him? Are we still rolling right now?
What do you mean? What do you do with him? He's not.
Are we still rolling?
We're still rolling. Do I stop?
Back to your regularly scheduled program. What do we do with him? We're introduced to the last 2 card professors who were apparently like Pegasus's proteges, even though I thought Gecko and Yeiko were supposed to be Pegasus's like proteges. Richie, Merced, and Deprice Scott? That's just Gaara. Like, that's just straight up Gaara. Richie starts beating up Bandit Keith and Yugi decides to stop him for whatever reason. He didn't stop Bandit Keith beating up the other guy, but he stops Richie from beating up Bandit Keith. Richie and Deprice are both upset at Gecko for betraying them and helping the guy that took Pegasus away from them. And by the way, at no point is Yugi ever like, hey, by the way, I didn't kill him. Or even tell them like, hey, your master kind of kidnapped my grandpa and like, I didn't want him back, but like I needed him for like tax purposes and stuff like that. They tell Yugi like, you killed our master, now it's time to pay, but like not here, we need to go to the duel ring first. There's snacks down there if you're hungry, and the bathroom is down the hall to the right. You should go now so you don't have to go during the duel. Now here's the thing, when I heard the premise of Pegasus having like a protege that wanted revenge on Yugi, I was so excited. But they made it so much more complicated than it had to be. Card professors that are just like a mix of like mercenaries and like people that Pegasus raised, and the twin brother and Project Raw and trying to revive him through Anzu. If the card professors were like all just like people that looked up to Pegasus and not like his students, then that would be pretty cool. Because again, it makes no sense to have like this whole kindergarten class worth of kids that Pegasus raised that never got brought up even once. If they were all like super dedicated hardcore fans of Pegasus, like a cult that loved everything Pegasus did, that would be awesome. Or like I was expecting like a crazed Pegasus fanboy to try to like steal Pegasus's deck and try to duel Yugi with it, wanting revenge, or like trying to take control of Industrial Illusions and become like the new Pegasus. You know what I mean? Like something like that. Okay, this part is a total nitpick. I'm totally admitting that right now, but I just couldn't help but notice this. Look at Deprice and Richie in this panel, and then look at them in this panel. What happened here? Yugi tells the Pharaoh to sit this one out because he doesn't want to stand back and watch the Pharaoh win every single duel for him, and wanting to use his own deck as well. He takes Anzu out of the duel disc and she like fades away and then the duel begins. Yugi uses a bunch of toy cards and I actually like that. It's pretty cool. It's a good reflection of Yugi's like kiddish nature in comparison to the Pharaoh. I also really like Deprice. To me, he's what Yeiko should have been. This panel right here encapsulates why I like Deprice so much and why I would much rather have him be the main villain instead of Yeiko. You stole Master Pegasus from us. You will get nothing from me. Not my life points, not time to grow, and certainly not a chance of winning. When Deprice starts taking control of the duel, then the Pharaoh comes out to tell Deprice basically just like, hey, just so you know, like, I don't do everything for Yugi, and then he just pieces out and Yugi comes back. I feel like they only included that panel for the people that complain that Yugi never wins a duel without the Pharaoh. Yugi manages to turn the duel around with his Toy Soldier card and win it. And I also really like whenever Toy Soldier destroys a card, they turn into like Lego blocks. That's a pretty good touch. Yeiko and Kaiba were watching this duel while Yeiko was trying to convince Kaiba to join them since they both hate Yugi. And when Kaiba declines, Yeiko basically goes like, I wasn't really asking, and then shows Kaiba the Wicked Avatar. The last chapter of this volume is like a one-off story that has nothing to do with the actual volume or arc itself. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. It's literally filler within filler. And I'm not actually gonna go over it since one, it has nothing to do with the main story, and two, it gives you a reason to go read this for yourself. There are 3 things I want to point out though. One, Jonichi is practicing to enter in a tournament held by Yugi's grandpa's game shop, and the name of the tournament is the Duelist Level Certification Tournament. Like, that just rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it? And 2, the group of baddies is called the Store Breakers because they go into card shops and close them down. That's like being a group of bank robbers and calling yourselves the Money Stealers. And 3, at one point in the duel, a trap spell card is activated. I mean, I kind of already told you what I thought about this volume. There's not much more for me to say. Like I said, way more complicated than it needs to be. And the focus is like barely on the main villain. I mean, his mercenaries have more personality than he does.
There was no friendship, only greed. But now I can revel in the thought of you losing all hope in your sister's eyesight.
Yeko tells Kaiba like the story of his evil god card, and Dupre? In the last volume they called him Dupreece, and now they're just calling him Dupree. I feel like the farther I get into this arc, the more they try to gaslight me. He has like a mental breakdown over losing the duel, and I actually kind of liked it, even though they kind of try to play it for laughs. Cutting to Yeko and Yugi just like awkwardly watching him have this mental breakdown, which again, am I supposed to take them seriously or not? I'm not saying that villains can't be like funny or make jokes or anything like that, but when the whole joke is you pointing and laughing at them, yeah, it makes you not really want to take him serious. Dupreece is like freaking out because he's never going to see Pegasus again, and I actually really like that. It's like him finally coming to terms with it. Ricky then challenges Gecko, wanting revenge for him betraying them. Gecko then tells Richie like, we can't drag innocent people into this. A little late for that, don't you think? Oh yeah, and Richie has like this black duel disc that he gets for being like the #1 card professor. Gecko tells Richie that it's kind of pointless to want to bring Pegasus back since they all learned to be good duelists without him and they shouldn't just be dependent on him. Richie basically just replies with like, nuh-uh. It's a pretty good duel actually, and Richie actually manages to take the win, telling Gecko that the reason he lost is because he's not a real orphan since he still has his brother Yeko. Yeah, you're not a real orphan, you fucking poser, you still have your brother. And Yugi agreed that if Gecko lost, then his journey would end there. But like, it really doesn't, since like I mentioned before, there's no like divine punishment or anything for losing. The only point of the duels is to stall Yugi from saving his friends, so like why would he agree to those terms? Like, am I making sense? That's like saying if you beat me in a game of rock, paper, scissors, I'm not allowed to eat my dinner, and then I lose, and then you go, okay, well, no dinner for you. But the plate of food is still sitting right in front of me and you leave the room. Like there's nothing stopping me from eating dinner. Bandit Keith pops back up and gives Richie a good old knuckle sandwich as payback from earlier. He wants revenge on Jonochi for embarrassing him at Duelist Kingdom. He wants to duel Richie so he can get used to the new rules of Yu-Gi-Oh! R. Yeah, so apparently Yu-Gi-Oh! R has like new rules. They didn't mention it until now, and there is a rule book of the new rules, except it's at the end of this volume only. The second to last volume of the arc. Kaiba and Yeko go out and they start their duel, and the minion that Kaiba dueled earlier is still just chilling on the roof when they get there, and he just decides to watch their duel. Even Kaiba asks like, why are you still here? And he gets mad at Yeko for all of his minions basically squatting around Kaiba HQ. Anyways, the duel begins and Kaiba uses these like material monsters like material bat, material lion, and material scorpion. And maybe it's me reading a little bit too far into it, but I really like how the rich, snobby kid who's obviously materialistic uses the material monsters, like how Yugi uses the kiddish toy monsters. We get a flashback of Yeko and Gecko dueling each other, and Yeko gets jealous of Gecko when Pegasus calls Gecko the perfect duelist. And we see another flashback of Pegasus calling Gecko a diamond in the rough, and he's not quite ready yet. But shouldn't he be talking to Yeko? Like, read these pages. Was this an error? Like, it makes more sense that he should be talking to Yeko in this scene, right? Because why would you call your perfect duelist a diamond in the rough and he's not quite ready yet? You know what I mean? Am I being too hard on this arc? Like, I don't see a lot of people talking about it, so I genuinely don't know. But like, these are just, this is just how I feel when I was reading it. Kaiba summons out all 3 of his Blue Eyes, and in a move that never made any sense, he fuses them all together into Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon just to flex on Yeko. But Yeko activates a trap card that allows him to summon all the materials Kaiba used to summon his fusion monster. So now Yeko has 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons, and using all of them to summon his Wicked Avatar card, which copies the attack and defense of the strongest monster on the field +1. So copying Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon and using it to blast away Kaiba's Ultimate Dragon. He's then able to bring out Wicked Dreadroot, which then Wicked Avatar then copies. Needless to say, Kaiba doesn't survive much longer after that combo. Jonochi, Honda, and Mokuba were all able to make it to the main server room. Cutting to Richie and Bandit Keith's duel, we see that Bandit Keith Keith has the third wicked god card. Yugi and Yeiko are able to make it to the roof since Mokuba was able to unlock the doors for them. They run into another card professor on the way, and I genuinely don't know if this has been 13 or not. I stopped counting it to a certain point. Anyways, without even stopping to say hello, Yugi just summons Slifer and blasts him away as they continue to run up to the roof. Why couldn't you just do this with every card professor you've seen up until this point? Project Ra is officially complete at this point, and Yeiko proceeds to start to bring back Pegasus with Pegasus's like soul card. Don't ask me how he got that. However, something goes wrong and Kaiba tells Yeiko that they were able to shut down the main server since someone in the building is still dueling. And realizing what Kaiba said, Yeiko starts to grin. Jonochi and Honda meet up with Gekko and Yugi when they run into Bandit Keith, who is not the happiest to see Jonochi. Jonochi tells the rest of the group to keep going while he stays to take care of Bandit Keith. And honestly, I'm pretty excited to see the rematch. I honestly don't know. Let me know if I'm being way too hard on this arc. Let me know what you guys think of it so far, but let's just see how it wraps up.
Go now. Run back to your sister. Tell her you failed. She's in darkness now, as she will be forever.
Bandit Keith actually brings up to Jonochi how Pegasus is the one that killed him and how he was brought back to life. And Keith does want revenge on Pegasus, but since he's dead, he decides Jonochi's the next best thing. I still don't get why he would help the minions of the guy that killed him, you know what I mean? I guess it's more of like him unintentionally helping them. Like he doesn't really want to help them, but he wants to duel Jonochi, which in the end helps them, you know what I mean? And he even tells Jonochi that he lied to Yeiko, saying that Yugi was the one that killed Pegasus, so Yeiko would target them for Project Ra. Jonochi has a pretty sick line about sending Keith back to hell, and the duel begins. At one point, Jonochi activates Time Machine, and Bandit Keith was like, "Motherfucker, I've been looking for that card." And Jonochi's like, "Oh, Time Machine? You mean this card? The card that I took from you? Yeah, you mean this? You mean your card? You mean your Time Machine card, the one that I'm using right now? Oh yeah, I took that from your deck when you tossed it in the trash. I hope you don't mind it." But we see that old habits do die hard when Bandit Keith pulls out a Ring of Destruction from his sleeves and proceeds to set it. This is when the black duel disc would start going off, and apparently the black duel disc doesn't accept cheating. Don't ask me how it knows that he pulled it from his sleeve and not the actual deck. After Keith gets enough sacrifices on his field, he's able to bring out the third Wicked God card, Wicked Eraser. Its attack is 1,000 times the amount of cards your opponent has on their field. Jonochi then activates Giant Trunade to try to bounce all the back row cards back to their hand, and it gets pretty cocky until Bandit Keith then negates it with D-Spell. Keith talks about how terrible this God card is since it's dependent on your opponent's side of the field, and that's not even the last time that someone in this arc calls that God card trash. And it's just funny, like you have this big reveal for the third God card and people in the arc just talk about how shit it is. We have this like 2-panel flashback of Yeiko bringing Bandit Keith back to life and him just handing him the Wicked Eraser and going, "By the way, I own you now." Keith does the classic "I'm about to lose my goddamn mind" face, seeing that the evil God cards basically just turn you insane. The evil God cards possess you and fill you full of hatred. That's what happened to Gekko when Yeiko was possessing him while he was dueling Yugi. Honestly, these two just have like the best personalities to duel each other. They're hilarious when they duel. Jonochi uses a card to swipe a monster from Bandit Keith's hand, and Jonochi's just like, "Wow, look at all these monsters you got. I don't know which one to choose." And then when he grabs one and he's walking away bragging, Keith tries to kick him. He stole Bandit Keith's Fiendish Engine Omega and is able to defeat Wicked Eraser with it. However, Wicked Eraser's second effect is that when it's destroyed, it takes all the cards on the field along with it. Keith starts having like an existential crisis and Jonochi's able to deliver the final blow. Keith tosses Jonochi the black duel disc that he stole from Richie. Jonochi then leaves Bandit Keith's Time Machine card with him and tries to go catch up with the gang. When he catches up with them, he tells them about his cool new black duel disc, and Honda goes, "Wow, they're just handing them out, aren't they?" Jonochi doesn't even have like a witty comeback to it. He's just like genuinely offended. To free Anzu, they need to cut the link between the evil God cards, and they already got Wicked Dreadroot and Eraser, so they just need Avatar. Yeiko and Gekko argue back and forth, and Gekko tries to tell Yeiko that it wasn't Yugi that killed Pegasus. Yeiko then responds by saying it doesn't really matter who actually killed Pegasus because after Yugi defeated him, Pegasus wanted to die, and that it doesn't actually matter who's the one that killed Pegasus because it was Yugi that put him in that mindset. I don't think that logic holds up in a court of law. Yugi demands Yeiko to let Anzu free as Kaiba's in the background instigating the whole time. He's just going like, "Fuck him up, Yugi! Duel him, you fucking pussy. The duel begins, and I love that the minion that dueled Kaiba is still there. He has like no lines or anything. He's just always just watching. Yuki brings out all 3 knights and fuses them to create Arcane and Knight Joker. And then Yeiko brings out Wicked Eraser to quickly get rid of Joker. But then he tributes Wicked Eraser to bring out Gape? Gape? I'm gonna say Gape. Gape the Divine Soldier. You can reveal any number of god cards in your hand to raise its attack by 300 for each card revealed. So Yeiko reveals Wicked Avatar and hits Yugi with the direct attack. This lets Yugi bring out Gores and Cayenne. And then Yeiko is able to bring out the Wicked Avatar, which transforms into Anzu for a little bit since she is being absorbed by the evil god cards. Them shutting down the servers like basically did nothing because the evil god cards like hacked the system or something and was able to override it. Anyways, it transforms into Gores and then destroys Cayenne. Yugi then tries the tactic to destroy the Wicked Gores by using his own Gores and the Tricky to try to destroy it, but Yeiko ends up stopping it and destroys Yugi's Gores. So his Wicked Avatar then turns into the Tricky. Yeiko then activates Fiend's Sanctuary, which then transforms into normal Yugi. This really is just fanfic. We straight up got creepypasta Yugi. Yeiko then tries to convince the Pharaoh that Yugi hates him, since the Pharaoh is the one that always wins everything for the normal Yugi. This goes on for like a page or 2, and then the normal Yugi comes out and just goes like, nah, and then he transforms back into the Pharaoh and the duel continues on. He then activates Monster Reborn to bring back Obelisk from the graveyard. And it's funny because Kaiba gets so hyped because he's like, that's my card! Yugi could defeat the Wicked Avatar without me! Wicked Avatar then transforms into Wicked Obelisk, +1 life point. And then Yugi activates the ability to give Obelisk infinite attack points. And he tells Yeiko, look at that, you can't do infinity +1. You could tell that this was before the Seal of Orichalcos arc. This is when the Wicked Avatar turns into Affinity plus Google. Yeiko tells Yugi that the Wicked Avatar still wins since it's like an SS tier god card and Obelisk is like a high C tier god card. Yugi activates the card that Gecko gave him, which was Divine Evolution. The effect reads, the target monster gains 1000 attack and defense. This card's activation cannot be negated. So it doesn't even have to be a god card you use this card on, but this turns Obelisk into Obelisk the Progenitor. Obelisk and the Wicked Avatar clash, and Yugi and Yeiko are like sucked into a vision. Pegasus appears and just abandons Yeiko without saying anything. And then it cuts to Anzu telling Yugi like, don't worry, I'll see you guys in like 10 minutes. Both god cards are gone and Anzu wakes up, and Yugi convinces Yeiko to just like let go of Pegasus. Yeiko wants to just surrender and Gecko just says, nah, take your L like a real man. The duel goes on a little bit longer and Yugi's able to bring out his magicians and take the game from there. Yeiko just rips up the Wicked Avatar. Jonochi, Honda, and Anzu make it up to the roof and reunite with Yugi. Yeiko's a good guy now and we see all the minions wishing them well. Jonochi gives the girl whose duel disc he borrowed the black duel disc, which was a touch I actually really liked. I'm assuming Bandit Keith is just like decomposing where we last saw him because he did not appear in these last few panels. And that was Yu-Gi-Oh! R. Wasn't my favorite to say the least, but I really appreciate you guys for suggesting that. I'm really always down to find a new piece of Yu-Gi-Oh! Media I'm not familiar with. Let me know what you guys thought about this format of me reading the manga instead of watching one of the anime. Let me know if there's any other obscure, cool Yu-Gi-Oh! Stuff you guys want me to take a look at. Thank you so much to Aura for sponsoring this video. Check out Aura if you want to help the channel out and especially help yourself. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you guys so much for watching.